Hi everybody, my name is Scott Westby. I'm the president of the Valley City State University History Club on campus. Just a quick little plug for any students or community members out there. The History Club on campus does opportunities like this about once every month, and we just try to incorporate historical events and ideas into our projects. We meet once a month, the first Wednesday of each month, so if you're interested, please talk to me and we can get you set up. Also, today we will have Wayne McKirdy of Valley City, North Dakota, who recently moved to Lisbon, North Dakota. He will be speaking to us. He was a Korean War veteran from 1951 to 1953 and has served many Methodist churches since that time frame. So please welcome Wayne McKirdy.
He said after 2 hours he's going to cut me off. So, I'm going to deviate just a little bit to start with. One, to me, history is his story. So what you're going to hear tonight is his story of what the Korean War was. I just published a book. My wife and I had started while she was alive. And most of what I'm going to say tonight is in here, plus a lot more that I'm not going to say. If anybody finds an interest, there is a copy of this in your Valley City Library, is that right?
Yep.
Okay. And there's also one at the Valley City Library. So you don't have to buy one. If you want to buy one, I'll give you a special deal. It says 15 bucks on the back, and I'll give it to you for 12. So that's going to be there. I'm not trying to push it. I am just saying, if it does get to where it's interesting to you, and it's not just stale history to me, it's a love story, the love of life, and our life together. Okay, second deviation. I want to speak tonight not about just what the service was, what the Korean War was, but what the Army did for me. To do that, I have to take you back a little bit. Say to the 1930s in western North Dakota, where if you saw a big cloud coming up, it wasn't a thunder shower, it was either the grasshoppers or the dust storm coming in. Here was a kid, the 13th out of a family of 16, without mother or dad, growing up in what today you probably would have said extreme poverty, but we didn't know it. In a family that big, everybody looked out for everybody, and nobody looked out for nobody. So I had just the run of every place, and there were things in my mind that I could dream of. Some of the dreams that I had. I would like someday to travel. I wanted to see things. All I could see was, well, there's a hill to the east. I never did get beyond that hill to the east. To the south I got because I walked that. West was the river, and I followed that to Lehigh and Dickinson. But I wanted to travel. And then in 1936, they paved the highway 2 miles north of us, and the big vans, the Midnight Express, came through Gladstone. Wow! When I get big, I want to drive a truck. And then the Greyhound came through. When I get big, I want to drive a Greyhound. My dreams were enlarging, but all the time, my hiking along the river, I could follow almost any animal. I could tell you what they were doing, how many there were, and all that kind of thing, just by looking at the tracks. I loved wildlife. I'd really like to go into wildlife, but a family of 16 growing up in the 30s without mom and dad, and there is no such thing as student loans in those days. there's no way I'm going to get a college education, and you aren't going to get very far without a college education. Okay, that's my background. I got drafted. Well, I tried to enlist. I tried to enlist in the Air Cadets. They rejected me for hammer toes. It didn't bother the infantry or the Army when they wanted me, but Air Force did. So I tried to enlist. Finally, the draft clerk came to me one day and said she knew I was ready for the call because I passed the Air Cadets. To get into Air Cadets, I passed. I couldn't get into the regular force, but I could the Air Cadets. And the draft clerk came to me one day and said, Wayne, I can't put you off any longer. If you want to get into the Air Cadets, you had better join the Air Force. I said, I'll just take what comes. So I got drafted. I was sent down to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Down at Fort Sill, we trained for artillery surveyors. Now these are the guys that are out in the front line to survey in and say to the battery back there, okay, here's your trajectory, get in there. Often even ahead of the infantry, usually right with the infantry. When we graduated from Fort Sill, we were given 10 days to get out to California. We got out there, and they got us ready to ship out, gave us all the equipment we need, and we had to clean it all up and all of that, and all. Get everything ready to go. And the night before we were to go load up on the ship, they told us, bring everything in, you're flying out. Our whole battery of artillery surveyors got on that DC-6 and off we went, flying over to Japan. That's all that was on that, 3 officers, but the rest of us were all artillery surveyors. Now that said a lot to us. They must be going through those guys, if they need them so bad, they're going to fly us over. Oh, we got over to Japan. Oh, by the way, we stopped for Thanksgiving dinner in Hawaii. We stopped that night in Guam, and the next morning we were in Tokyo. Oh, we don't need any artillery surveyors. You can go over to Korea as a rifleman if you'd like, but we don't need any surveyors. We do have a good school down at Iwo-jima, and you can pick your topic down there. There were 3 different schools. I took wheel vehicle mechanics, and that was interesting. We got done with that, and 5 of us wheeled vehicle mechanics were assigned to 300th Armored Field Artillery. The 300th was stationed about 60 miles north of the 38th parallel. We were in support of the 1st Marine Corps on Heartbreak Ridge. And that's when I joined them. Well, we don't need 5 mechanics, we can use 2. And, no, I think it was 3, we can use 3. Larson, he was a kid from just down the road here, what's the little town, if you come out of Faulkton and Oaks, there's a little town, Verona, yeah, he was from Verona. You're a wireman, civilian like. Well, yes, I worked for Bell Telephone. Okay, you're a field wireman now. McKirdy, you can type. Well, yeah, that was before I cut my finger off. I haven't typed since. Well, you got 1 week to practice. You're a new clerk typist. Great. Well, did I tell you, in my stay in Korea, I served 9 different military occupation numbers. Wow. See, that was 2 already. The day I was to report for being the battery clerk, they called from 10th Corps forward, and they needed a clerk typist for G2. the general's office. Okay? They didn't have another one, so I was it. That was a delightful job. Hey, you knew everything that was going on. G2 is intelligence. And we knew everything that was going on in the whole front. Like one time, they called for complete silence. There wasn't a shot fired. Even if soldiers came in view, no shot was fired. And the Chinese and the Koreans were really beginning to wonder, what were we up to? And then, after almost a week of that, they started pouring south to see what was going on. And just as they got out in the open, we gave the directions, time on target, which meant simply over that whole field, you made it so that the shell would burst about 20, 30 feet above the ground. And bad news for the Chinese. But that's the kind of job I had. Mine was sitting back there with the general. That went on for about a month, and then we moved over to 9th Corps, behind the Koreans. We were with 5th Group. And there, well, on the way over, they had me ride in the battalion's service truck. It had a Dutch door, and it was wired open so that I could have some ventilation back there. But somewhere along the line it came closed, and so I stood on the bottom one and reached up and I found the nail and got it all fixed up, and just as I'm starting to get down, we hit a bump. And the 6-penny nail went through the top of my eye. Uh-oh. The sergeant stopped. It took almost 5 minutes for him to realize I was yelling at him. And when he stopped, he took a look at me and turned that truck around to MASH Hospital, or to the MPs, and the MPs rushed me down to MASH. Well, about a week there, and they told me, you can either wait for somebody to come in from your outfit, because we don't know where you're at, or you can just start hiking north and see what you can find. Well, I decided I'm going back to that MP place. The MP said, yeah, right up here, we'll take you. They got me to a junction. Okay, you go left. We're going right. But just down the road a piece, you'll see your outfit. Well, our outfit has a great big triangle, the yellow triangle with a big red bucking horse on it. The 300th Armored Field is a Wyoming National Guard outfit. No longer Wyoming. No, I don't think there was anybody left from Wyoming in there. But that's the sign we looked for. Well, I couldn't find any such. I stood at the edge of an airport and watched the planes coming and going. It's just a little one, the little grasshopper, we call them. I don't know what they were really, I suppose a Piper or maybe a Taylorcraft or something like that. Anyway, as I'm watching there, I finally start walking down the road and a lieutenant picked me up, asked me where I was going. I told him I don't know. He said, what outfit did you replace? The triple nickel. Uh-oh, at this next junction I'm going to drop you off. You go right. The triple nickel is down that road, but the Chinese are on your north and we're on the south of that road that I'm going to be following. So be careful. Well, you know, one of the bad parts was, when they dropped me off at that MP place, they didn't give me a helmet back, they didn't give me a jacket, they didn't give me a gun. I had nothing except what I had on in the back of that truck. I'd only gone a couple of steps, however, and here comes a truck. 300th Armored Field truck. They recognized me and were delighted, but except they knew that I had been sent home because of that eye being punctured out. Well, it didn't hurt anything, it just went through the top, and that was all. I'm going to leave those off, it'll be easier. I can't see them, but then that's okay. They put me on a Mexican drag bike. Now, that's not a very, what's the term they use today?
Politically correct.
Yeah, politically correct. But that's what we called it. Okay? You wanted to hear about the Korean conflict, not about Clinic, correct. Mexican drag line was simply a pick and shovel. And they put me on that. And after a while, about a week of that, they got a request for a messenger. The message job was probably my most dangerous job. They gave me a Jeep, assigned me down to the 5th group, and let me go from there. Now there were 2 of us who were assigned as messengers, one from my outfit and one from a big Long Tom outfit up the road. Long Tom is a 155 howitzer, where ours was only a 105 mounted on an M7 tank. Theirs was a 155, which is a tremendous thing. It could shoot better than 20 miles. Ours could only do about 7. When we got together there, we had 3 message runs a day. One in the morning, and the one in the afternoon. Each of us would take one, and we'd alternate. And then the evening run, we'd go together, so we had a shotgun at night. Except sometimes it didn't happen. Well, let me tell you one of the experiences, just to give you an idea. I can tell you, I went through 3 Jeeps in 1 week. One of them was blown up right in front of me. I just barely got out and got into the CP. Whoa! Looked back, and the Jeep is gone. It just shredded. That was the company communications officer's Jeep. That wasn't my Jeep. My Jeep was in repair at the time. Anyway, on this one night, it was a dark night. Really dark. Cloudy. Cloudy is good because with clouds, you could even run with your regular lights on. Most of the time at night, we ran with just our blackout lights, which showed you about 5-6 feet ahead of the Jeep, and that's what you were watching. You didn't see much else. This night was so dark, the clouds were below the tops of the hills, which meant the Chinese who were watching that road all the time couldn't see anything. And all of a sudden, whew, everything lit up like as if a bright moonlight. Wonder what that is. Went around the corner, and here is a big searchlight. It's about a 10-foot tall searchlight. That was so interesting, I had to go in there. I didn't have anything to drop there, but I went in there and did some questioning, and he showed it to me. What it is was the engineers were working on a bridge across the Pukong, just a little bit further down. And so here, about a quarter mile away from there, they put this searchlight, beam it up to the clouds. The clouds would pick up that light, diffuse it back to the ground, and it was just like broad moonlight, bright moonlight. It was a terrific way of lighting the place up, and they could do it. That particular incident gave me some of the most interesting, I don't know if you all know, I'm a preacher. I'm a Methodist preacher. That gave me sermon material for my whole ministry. And that was simply this. We're a lot like that searchlight. The searchlight had all kinds of little mirrors all over, just a little bit different, so that all together they focused in one beam up to the clouds. The light was just a simple little can of carbide, about a gallon of carbide burning down toward the bottom. Okay, when the light hit the clouds, it diffused and you got the light. That's the way we ought to be in Christianity. I don't care what denomination you are. You see, Jesus is that can of carbide. He's the light. The mirrors are the churches around, of all denominations, of all different kinds. I don't know of any only two churches out of the same, even in the same denomination. Okay, and that's exactly what those mirrors were. But they take the love of God and hit it up to us. We are the sparks or the drops of water in that cloud, and our job is to reflect it back to those around us. That's what life's about. Well, now you've heard my sermon for tonight. From the job of messenger, I was that for a couple of months, and they called me back off. And they were going to put me in as clerk typist again. But, you see, now I've been on TDY, temporary duty. You don't make any rank on temporary duty. So I came in there as an E2, and at the end of being pulled off after almost 4 months over there, I'm still an E2. The battery clerk can be a sergeant. So there's a truck driver over here. This truck driver is only a PFC, and that's all the rank you can make is a truck driver. So they gave him the clerk typist job and gave me the truck. Oh, wow. It was a big truck. Well, you better remember, in my growing up days, our family had a car. It was a Nash Whippet. You ever hear of a Nash Whippet? You have? You're the first one. There was a Whippet and there was a Nash. And my dad and my brother took those two together and made a Nash Whippet. And that sat in our garage. I mean, it sat in our garage. I never saw it, never heard it run. Never once. So when I learned to drive, it was with a Model A, and it was a 34 Chevy pickup. My first experience of driving that 34 Chevy pickup was that my brother-in-law, who owned the pickup, said, go and clean out the chicken coop. And when you're done, take it out to the dump ground. So I did. I cleaned out the chicken coop, got started out, and I'm looking down, shifting, and boom, ran right into the post. I'm a good driver. That's the biggest thing I'd ever driven. They gave me a 2.5-ton truck. A 2.5-ton isn't big by a lot of standards, but it was sure big to me. And did I enjoy that? And travel? Oh, this was the personnel truck. I didn't carry express or freight or anything like that. I carried people. The Greyhound. And I drove all over North and South Korea. Almost about 4 months of that. The most beautiful job I think I've ever had. I got to travel. I got to drive a truck. I had adventure. I couldn't beat it. But after a while, Master Sergeant Willie McCartney got transferred home. Master Sergeant Willie McCartney was the message center chief. The message center chief is supposed to be a master sergeant. But there wasn't anybody to replace him. We'll put McKirdy in there, and after a couple of months, he can be a sergeant, at least. Now, he'll make rank fast. Great. So, 1 week in there, they put me in for corporal. That day, all rank in Korea was froze. And it stayed froze for about 5 months. I don't know whether anybody believed that a PFC, I had made a PFC driving that truck. I don't think they knew that a PFC could run a message center. But it could, and I did, and it was fun. During that time, there were a few pretty hairy ones. One was a big push by the Chinese. We really fired our guns that day. That's the only time that I got on the line firing. Everybody was firing that day. If you were in the field artillery, you were supposed to know how to fire, and we had been trained in that. So that day, we fired. Our outfit fired over 8,000 rounds that day. We had our only casualty of conflict on that day, and that was simply that one of the tubes, the tube is the rifle part of the howitzer, got too hot, and we were firing time on target. And so this shell got stuck in there, and time on target, when the time came, it blew. And just as the gunner was going to get the shell out, it blew the thing right through his stomach. So we lost one that way. Now that's a lot different than my buddy. I had a couple buddies from Gladstone over there, but they were in the infantry. And theirs was a lot different story than mine. I think I had it good. Well, one day, about 5 months after having that job, my communications officer came in and said, Mac, I can make you corporal tomorrow. Great. You got to agree to stay 3 more months. I said, no. You can give the corporal to anybody you want, but I'll most likely be here. The way rotations are going, I'll most likely be here another 2 or 3 months, but no, I'm not going to agree to that. You can just give it to somebody else. Okay. So the next day he brings in his sheaf of paper in a nice round bag. I get it ready to ship out. He keeps watching me all the time. He says, that's okay with you, isn't it? I said, it's my job.